Well, good evening, fellow explorers. Hello, Linda Mom. Nice to see you from Pennsylvania.
Oh, nice.
Uh,
Pennsylvania. Hello, Linda.
uh, Interesting week. and Jennifer's found some rabbit holes that she can't get out of. And she pulled me down into one of them. And now I'm kind of on a side tunnel. But I'm going to say this. I'm going to apologize ahead of time if it seems like my image goes in and out or something like that, because our internet here has been horrible.
Okay.
Mainly the upload speed. So
Yeah.
I apologize ahead of time if that happens. Just let me know if like you can't hear anything I'm saying, like it cuts out or something like that. And so anyway, but based on the new format of the show and some of the conversations Jennifer and I have had over the last couple of weeks or so, I really find myself focusing on, and I know Jennifer is too, the 1800s or we'll just say pre-industrial revolution, and especially late 1700s to like late 1800s or some early 1900s. But there just seems to be a lot of, I say a lot, I just realized that there seems to be a lot of interesting people and interesting circumstances and interesting happenings in that time period that are hard to explain unless you dig into them. And I can see why some of them they tried to hide from us, because some things just don't add up. Some things don't make sense on the surface. And we were talking about or had mentioned the Smoky God book by Willis Emerson was the last week or the week before. It's somewhere in the last couple of weeks. And so Jennifer did a reading of that last night. And did you actually get to finish it?
Yes, I read it completely through.
Because I watched probably the first hour and a half of it.
Yeah, you were halfway through it. It took about just under 3 hours for the entire book.
Gotcha. So, but it's interesting if you haven't seen it or heard it or whatever, but it's freely available to read or to listen to.
Right.
But Jennifer's found some interesting things about the author, Mr. Willis Emerson, which I'm not going to steal her thunder on that, because she's doing a lot of stuff when it involves that particular person. And it's shocking the amount of stuff that this guy is able to do in his lifetime. And I mean, it literally is shocking. I don't get shocked easy, and it literally shocked me. Not only how much this guy did, he must have had a ton of money too, and he was all over the place. Anyway, it's just one of those things that it's hard to wrap your brain around unless you sit around, and I'm sure Jennifer's going to put a show together on it. So
yeah. You know what? I want to get all of the Sherlock Holmes and Nancy Drew's, Scooby Doo, everybody. I want us to put our just brains together.
Put our tinfoil hats together.
All the tinfoil, bring it all together, because the thing about this being a group type of gathering, it's that I'm not going to see things that somebody else is going to see. And it comes together beautifully, because I've even looked at comments after a live stream that I missed. And I'm like, whoa, that is amazing. Like, that person helped me understand something. So it's invaluable. So I really appreciate it. I think, I literally think, John, that the Chatmosphere will solve the case before the live stream is finished.
Either that or they'll create another rabbit hole.
Oh no.
It's like whack-a-mole. It's like, oh geez, there's another one.
And And some people think it's like, why are you bothering going down rabbit holes? Stop talking about rabbit holes. I have to think of another term because I think all of these terms are starting to become worn out, like worn thin. So I don't know what another name. I think rabbit holes cute, overplayed.
Yeah, I think people get the reference, but I agree. It's kind of, especially now, and the reason there are so many rabbit holes that keep popping up, there's just so much stuff that's been hidden, so much
Yes.
stuff that keeps bubbling to the surface. It's like like if you ever had like when you were a kid, a kind of a longer balloon and you blew it up and you squeeze one in and it comes out the other end of your hand or the under, like it's just like you're kind of like trying to do this. That's kind of what I feel like you're grabbing onto the information, you're doing the research, and then this bubble pops out the other side, and it's like, what is that? Now you got to go look at that, and then bubble pops out on this side.
Right.
So
Right.
I am really focusing on the 1800s right now and that pre-industrial revolution. I'm fascinated, even with people that I've done a lot of research on. I'm finding out a lot of stuff I really didn't know. I'm going through a lot of old newspaper articles and stuff, and
Mhm.
like for example, Tartaria is mentioned a lot in the 1800s. That's all I got to say. It's mentioned a lot, like it
Right.
was a thing, like it
Mhm.
was a real place. It was a real culture, real language.
Mhm.
Um, a lot of even Tesla, my guy. I can't. In the archive, there's like over 5,000 pages of references from some of these old articles,
Mhm.
and like let's see here, since I'm talking about them. I found this one. This one was published. Let's see. It's called The Day Book, and it was October 13th, 1915. So this is a later part of Tesla's life.
Mhm.
Um, let's see. Let me blow this up a little bit. Yeah, we'll do a custom amount. So the title was "We'll Telephone to Stars," declares scientist Nikola Tesla. Like ET phone home, basically. "We'll telephone to stars."
Oh.
This is by Harry Payne Burton, copyright 1915 by the Newspaper Enterprise Association. So New York, which is where Tesla lived at the end of his life. The future of the transmission of the human voice will not be confined to this planet, but will be projected through the ether. And this is why I thought this article was interesting, because
Yeah.
they actually used the word ether.
Whoa.
Projected through the ether until its vibrations strike all the other planets that swung dizzily in space. I guess that's what it says. This authorized statement, of far greater importance than the amazing event which occasioned it. I love the way they talked back then.
I know, I do too.
Was unequivocally made today by the world famous scientist and discoverer of the wireless principle, Nikola Tesla. The distinguished inventor gave it exclusively to the Daybook as by the United States Navy Department. Keep that in mind. Hold on a sec. That was weird. Did your screen just go off?
It's going in and out the reception.
Okay.
Okay, it's better now.
That its experts had recently succeeded in projecting the human voice by wireless from Arlington, Virginia to Mare Island, California, a distance of 4,000 miles. This was in 1915.
Oh.
And this is a quote from Tesla. This in itself was, of course, a brilliant experiment, declared Tesla, and the experts are entitled to a great credit, but believe me when I say it is only the beginning. Very soon it will be possible for us to see each other at distances of thousands of miles. Keep that in mind. He's predicting television right here.
Oh, right.
Or
Wow.
like cell phones, like FaceTime, that kind of stuff.
Screens, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
We shall be enabled to hear an opera, sermon, or scientific lecture and be visually present in all kinds of meetings, like,
Uh-oh.
Zoom,
He foresaw 2020.
and transactions wherever they may be. Let's see. Oops. Taking place with regard to what we both happen at the time. This will become a daily business experience, not only to transmit with unerring precision a signature to an important document, but enable the recipient in a distant country to see it affixed by the sender, which as a real estate agent, we do that all the time. We do digital signatures and,
Right.
doesn't matter where you are.
Exactly. Mhm.
But the greatest and most revolutionary of all these advances on Earth will be the transmission of electrical energy in large amounts for all industrial purposes. Once a power plant is in operation, it will be possible to operate flying machines in any part of the world without fuel and light isolated homes in an ideally simple and economical manner. When world wireless telephony, the transport of bodies and materials, and the transmission of energy for all industrial and commercial purposes. So he's actually predicting like Star Trek kind of transports here.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Beam me up, Scotty, right?
Yes. Let's see. And commercial purposes become facts. The Earth will have shrunken in size so as to put nations in close touch and make international complications and warn an impossibility. It is already practicable. That's a weird word. Practicable to project from a machine made by man electrical impulses. There's no difficulty in producing a machine which would cause a disturbance on Venus or Mars sufficient for any expert if he exists there to detect. This leads me down the path that I always thought, like on the dark side of the moon or even on Mars or other places, that like the secret space program, what if they've kind of already done this, and they're making people crazy on Earth and are, creating earthquakes and that kind of stuff. Let's see. There was one other thing.
Wow. That's interesting to see these articles in newspapers mentioning Tesla like that. It's really that's
Yeah,
a really good place to find a lot of good in terms of like if you want to show people that only trust mainstream sources, this is very, very effective.
this one I found also interesting. This was posted after his death. This was on October 21st, 1934. The Sunday Star, Washington, D.C. It says Dr. Tesla visions the end of aircraft in war.
Mm.
And let's move this up a little bit.
This reads like a comic book, doesn't it? It looks.
Yes, it does.
Wow.
I'm going to skip a few things here. Dr. Nikola Tesla was in his laboratory trying hard to solve a problem of ages. Once in a while, he raised his head to listen. Then he turned back to his experiments. He was going to end war, and he was very open about that. He wanted to end war. The noted inventor, 78 years old now, already had 700 inventions to his credit. Oh my God, just think about that. That's just the inventions. That God only knows how many other things that were in his head that he never got to put in as an invention because he didn't want anybody to get hold of it.
Wow.
Let's see here. Now, 16 years after the war has ended, I'm assuming they're talking about World War I. Tesla, one of the greatest inventors of all time, has announced that his invention to end all wars by a perfect means of defense, which any nation can employ, is ready. Soon, he says, he will take it to Geneva to present it to the peace conference. Whether it is a dream or reality may soon be known. He claims to have created a new agent silent and invisible, which kills without trace and yet pierces the thickest armor. It is a beam of death and destruction formed of minute particles of matter, carrying such tremendous energy that they could bring down a fleet of 10,000 attacking planes and wipe out an army of millions at a distance of 250 miles. The invention, says Dr. Tesla, will make war impossible, for it will surround any country using this means with an impenetrable, invisible wall of protection. Plants for the generating of this beam will be erected along the coasts and near cities. One plant will afford perfect safety within an area of 40,000 square miles. The beam will be effective at any distance at which the object to be destroyed can be perceived through a telescope. Every country will have to adopt this invention, for without it, a nation will be helpless. The beam, intended chiefly for defense, will be projected from an electric power plant, ready to be put in action at the first sign of danger. So it goes on to talk about this, and going back to previous show and other things we've talked about with time travel and that kind of stuff. When we talked about Trump's uncle and Tesla, this was the thing that the military came and took all his stuff for, because they thought this was done and ready, and they didn't want the plans to fall in anybody's hands. They wanted it for themselves. So I found this interesting because I actually found the article that was actually like describing it, like the announcing it to the world kind of thing. And
yeah, that's interesting. It's interesting the mood of this piece. It shows reverence, which you don't see a lot of when Tesla is spoken of, in terms of like Dr. Tesla. I never heard, I never, saw him referred to that way. That sounds like he was a hero to the establishment, maybe, until they couldn't control him. Possibly.
He was literally a celebrity back in that time. Yes, he would have been like in today's terms like Tom Cruise. He was considered a huge celebrity back until the latter part of his life, where they destroyed his life. Up until then, he was always he was hobnobbing with the elites and things like that of New York and anywhere else that he would go. He was always asked to attend these fancy gatherings and that kind of stuff. And but like I said, until
I didn't know that
Chase
part.
And those guys.
Okay.
Hey, Casey.
Hey, Casey. Hey, welcome. So he was hobnobbing. So let me ask you this. Did he have a wife and children by any chance?
I believe he did. Hold on a sec.
Oh, I never did.
I don't know about the children though. Let me check.
I never did too much on him. I find him interesting. I found him more interesting a year or two ago. But yeah, I was like trying to, when you said he was hobnobbing with the elite, that
he never married.
Oh.
But he admitted to falling in love with a very special white pigeon that visited him regularly. And you always see those pictures of like, what's happening right now, with people holding the white pigeon when they're referring to the number 17 movement,
So that's what he said. He fell in love with a pigeon, a white pigeon. Huh. Interesting. And then so there are no heirs to,
I have to look a little deeper, but it doesn't look like it. And I think that's why John Trump that's why I think him and Nikola Tesla became friends. They became, contemporaries. And I think Nikola Tesla allowed a lot of his stuff to go to him, and because he trusted him. So, and that again leads to the show we did before about time travel and the Looking Glass project and all this other stuff. And I just think there's a lot to it. And people oversimplify it, but I think there's a lot more going on than what meets the eye. There's too much foreknowledge of a lot of things that are going on. And
Yeah.
let's see, I want to bring up what we were looking at earlier.
Okay.
Because I think people might be interested in this. If you didn't know, Jennifer's started this, she was trying to solve some mysteries by going down the architecture rabbit hole in some of these questionable areas of history. And we've brought up the World's Fair a number of times because there's something about them that needs to be investigated and studied, and because it really doesn't make sense. I mean, it really doesn't make sense. Like, especially the first World's Fair, and this came from the Republic. This was Sunday, May 3rd, 1903, and this is comparing the St. Louis and Chicago World's Fair, the architecture, comparing them. And I mean, look at these buildings. Look at this thing.
Amazing.
It's like the grandest building you could ever see in the like you would see something like that like in Austria or something like that from the 15 or 1600s. Hey, Sarah Grace, how you doing?
Hey, Sarah. Yeah, and look at the people in comparison.
Yeah, they're like little midgets down here, like little ants.
Yeah.
And they erected these really quick. Like within some cases, within 9 months from blueprint to being finished. And it's like,
it's so ridiculous.
Where did they quarry all the stone, and where did they get the stonemasons, and where they, and then the one that's all glass, I don't know if it's on this page, but I don't remember which one that was. It's literally called the Palace. It's like on 19 acres, and it's like made of iron and glass, and the glass is formed, it's shaped. It's not like it's just straight panes of glass.
Right. Exactly.
I want to know where this workforce is at that time period that built all of this stuff around the world, especially the United States.
Exactly. That's what I want to know too, because when you look at the 40 something census, the big census that they took in the 1800s.
Yeah, something like that.
So when you look at that, the numbers don't add up. And another issue with numbers, John and everyone, if you look up the numbers, can you find a stat that tells you how many people supposedly came to this World's Fair? It's astronomical. And that means they would have had to, how would they have traveled to the World's Fair from, that
steamship.
Yeah, and trains, right? And cars,
railroad, yes.
buggies and horses. They don't have airplane travel. So they're saying that logistically they got families, because it wasn't like, Coachella where people are going with their friends. These are children and babies and women and grandmas and everybody. They're trying to make us think that they logistically got these people to big cities, millions of people, to attend fairs. Like, where did they stay if they came to the fair? See,
Exactly.
Oh my God, I'm getting angry because I didn't think about that. Where did they stay? Right, everybody. I mean, this is becoming ridiculous. I want to talk to the manager. Yes, I want to talk to the manager. Where did everyone stay? Did they have a Holiday Inn? Did they have Airbnb in St. Louis to accommodate everybody? I want answers.
That must have been the origins of Motel 6. We'll leave the light on for you.
This is it's such an insult to our intelligence. I need to know what was going on in the 1800s, because I'm starting to call the 1800s a person of interest. That's how I refer to the 1800s.
Yes.
It's like that cousin that you can't put your purse down when you're around them. You have to take your purse to the bathroom. Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you all have a cousin like that? Like, you can't put your stuff down. You have to leave your purse in the trunk when you go visit. Do you have anybody that you know this, or is it just me? I just know people like this. Well, I think the 1800s are that person.
Look, I mean, look at this building. Look at that. Holy crap.
And another thing they tell me, when you read the narratives, they say that these are facades. That
And that they
these are,
take them down afterwards
yeah, this is,
and they move them conveniently to another country or to somewhere else where they burn down.
and I like where they played the lie up really good. They said, "Oh, I wonder what they made it. Was it out of plaster?" Like they're trying to really make us think that they went through the trouble of making plaster and what? Like paper mache. These are supposed to be paper mache buildings.
And see, now I could see this happening because I've seen the construction of a lot of new buildings, you know, being in the furniture business, and we built a lot of buildings. A lot of these fancy facades are styrofoam now, and they just put they put concrete over them, like they put mortar over the front of the styrofoam, and they
Yeah.
look like stone,
They
but they're
yeah,
styrofoam.
right. But they don't have this authenticity though. Even
No,
though I know they can
this
do
is
a lot of that faux stuff, it's something about it's like people that learn how to detect fake money, you know.
right.
You know, they say they train them in the real they don't even train them in the fake money. They train them so well in the real money that when the fake money comes through, they know it because they just get so accustomed to the real thing. And I think that's what I mean, you know, when you're looking at stone and other
Right.
materials that it's no way this is a facade.
Yeah, they're it like Jennifer, I get a little angry and I get a little frustrated about some of this stuff because if you think about it logically, this was intentional. The misleading, the misrepresenting, the hiding of all this was intentional. Why was it intentional? Why were they so scared to let people know about this period of time or anything else? What And the only way you can answer that question is look what's happening now. Look what's happening like with the Klaus Schwabs of the world and the Bill Gateses and the all the people that have like the Rothschilds still. That name is still in play right now. And we just watched a video before this that mentioned Baron Rothschild funding the building of that palace for the World's Fair, that first World's Fair. So if you take and connect that name along with the other one percenters or whatever that are trying to run us into the ground and use us as cattle for whatever machine they've been grinding us through for hundreds of years. If you think about that name and then all this stuff that doesn't make sense and it doesn't make sense because they didn't want us to know about it, and it doesn't make sense because we have no backstory, no history, no reference, no basis for anything, so we have to make it up ourselves, and that's why it seems crazy. But we're starting to put the pieces together, and
Yeah.
when you get enough people that are putting the same pieces together, and then it starts painting a picture, it starts painting a story, and that story is very interesting. And
Very
tell me Jennifer's rabbit hole she found with this Emerson dude, this Willis Emerson.
wow. I have yet, you know what, John? I have yet to explore it even. Like I want to do it on a live stream because I have to follow up the book, The Smoky God. I read it last night, but I listened to it today, everyone. And that's what I was telling John, that this story, I listened to it on somebody else's channel and I was blown away by the story. And I wanted to look into maybe reading it and just trying to think about it more and see what's going on with this story. And all of my research has led to it makes sense. It's almost like all of this is progressing and fitting together because I just
Mhm.
did research on Scotland and I did not realize, duh, I'm somebody who loved the little globe thing that I used to have in my room. I always had globes and I love maps and encyclopedias and maps and Bibles. So I always liked this stuff, but I don't know why I never understood, even though I was a globe nerd, I never thought about Scotland and its proximity to the Arctic Circle. So
Mhm.
I never focused on the Arctic Circle very much to understand, like, truly where is it and what is close to it. So doing the thing on Scotland helped me to see, wow, the Scottish Isles are proximal to the Arctic Circle. And when you think about the Scottish the fishermen and the sailors, they are very well just accomplished in terms of sailors. So in that particular live, it wasn't live stream, but it was content when I talked about the Scottish whalers. They would go up into like these Arctic areas, like all through those islands up there, and they would come back with was it elephant tusk,
Yeah, tusks. Yeah.
tusks, and also teeth of whales. And I had a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction when I read that because I was like, "Oh no, I'm not like one of these people like that just goes crazy." But I was thinking, that's what's going on. Why are we doing this? But when I heard and read the Smoky God again, it became very clear that they have so many islands all over, like from Sweden and Finland, all around Norway, and Scotland has almost 800 islands in Scotland. So we're talking islands are such a big part of our world realm. So with all the islands off of the Arctic Circle, they have they have shorelines. They have bone yards. They call them bone yards. So these bones are the bones of the mammoth and the tusks. So the whalers, they go and get these things. This is already there. They're not killing the animals to get this stuff. It's left behind from some whatever cataclysm or whatever happened. This is stuff that's there. So I wanted to make that clear because that can give a person a misperception about, well, these are like brute people, very savage, but they're not killing the animals to get that stuff. Because they made, what I found out was that's where they found the very first chess pieces.
Mhm.
They were Scottish seamen that got the tusk and they carved out the various pieces of the chessmen and the queen and the board, and you see all of the amazing carving, and this is ivory pieces. So I'm just saying there's something up with Scotland. So this is all connecting the Arctic, the Norse mythology, the Phoenicians, I mean, I'm saying this is so deep.
Yes, it is. Yeah, wait till you actually study Norse mythology because some of the smoky god references you'll understand more. You'll get more out of it. But when you study Norse mythology, do a little research on the Bifrost Bridge and
Bifrost.
keep the hollow earth in your mind too when you read about the Bifrost Bridge. And
Okay. Wow.
You'll find some of the stuff interesting, and
Okay.
it's funny because right around the late 1800s to the like early 1900s, like almost up to 1958.
Mhm.
Look at how all the maps changed and how they kept getting changed. I could see, with the advent of flight and that kind of stuff, that some of the maps would change, but it seemed like they were in a hurry to change some of them. And we on this show we talked or showed like the 1958 Encyclopedia Britannica, the world map with the Arctic ice wall, and just before the Arctic treaty was signed, and then after that treaty was signed, they changed the map.
Oh.
So I saw this. I'm not a TikToker or anything. Occasionally, things get sent to me, or I find some things here and there on TikTok. And I
Mhm.
saw this. I just thought this was interesting. I'm not going to say anything until you guys watch it.
Okay.
Let me know if there's no sound. There should be sound.
Let me show you something. This is the world map. And this is wrong. What if I told you that from here to here, it's 6,400 kilometers. But from here to here, which only looks like half the size, is 7,200. The continent of Africa has been shown smaller than it actually is. What if I told you that Greenland was only this size? Or Russia was this size? Or the US and Canada were much smaller? You know what? This is the real map. Look at Sweden, Finland, and Norway. They're much smaller now. Or Greenland is tiny. Maybe it wasn't practical, but it seems unfair towards Africa. Why haven't we been told this in school?
Yeah, why haven't we been told this in school?
Wow. That's crazy that it throws you off because that's what I've been harping about when I take trips. I told you about that.
Mm-hmm.
I've always felt I couldn't explain it. I felt I was being lied to, but I didn't have any proof of anything. It was a feeling. And it's just something I just could not put words to. There you are. I just never. And it almost feels scary to know that they're lying and you're up in the air on this flying tube and you're being told that, oh, you're right here. And then they show you the globe. Like, it's such an insult to the intelligence. The way that they show the plane and they show it flying and then they have the globe right here and it's like, oh, we're gonna fall over. What are we doing? What's going on? They go through too much trouble to lie to us.
But Sarah's right. She's like, I'm hearing Avengers in your bridge scenario, Johnny.
Oh.
Yes, because the Bifrost Bridge is obviously in the Thor movies in addition to the Avenger movies, but
Okay.
they portray it a little differently in the movies, but
Uh-huh.
the concept is still the same. Casey, this is interesting. Formed to pieces, my ex was from the bloodline of Eric the Red. The family had the chessboard from that era. That's interesting.
Oh, really, Casey?
Eric the Red's he's kind of a well-known dude.
Yeah, it's kind of a big deal there.
Well, hey Karen, how you doing? And
Karen,
Denise, everybody that just added, joined.
Denise, hello, welcome. Oh yeah. Well, the chess being a thing is interesting also to the connection with Trump because he's known to be, as they say, very advanced
5D chess.
5D chess. So the thing about chess and then him being from Scotland, I had someone in my comment section even say that his mother was from the Isle of Harris and Lewis, and I didn't know that, but they had shared that. So I was thinking that's really interesting. And then the Ingersoll connection and all these things. And now I'm like,
did I play the Hebrides revival video for you?
No, really.
You know what I'm talking about or referring
I
to?
do. I've heard about the revival. They had a spiritual revival that went through Scotland, and it
I
was like,
don't.
oh, don't give it.
you-
Sorry. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
don't.
Put me on mute.
Hold on a sec. I just want to make sure this is the right one.
Okay.
But yes, Jennifer is absolutely correct. There was a revival that happened in Scotland. It just gave me goosebumps because it ties in. Well, just listen to it. It's just it ties in with a lot of things that's going on right now. Oh my God, this is
Uh-oh.
for
Really?
those of you haven't seen it. This always brings a tear to my eye at the end.
Really? Oh boy.
Yes.
I've never seen it then.
All right, here we go.
There was a great revival in the Hebrides in the early 1900s. Began to moved up.
I'm sorry, that was me sniffling. I was recording my screen and I didn't realize my microphone was on. So if you hear any weird sounds, just ignore them.
Okay.
To the pleading for it in the 40s. Maybe we could say it topped out in the early 50s. Two old women, one was 84 years old and one was 82 years old. One was blind and one was humped over so badly with spinal stenosis just arched over. But they had passion for revival. They wanted God to work. This is what happened. They couldn't even get out to the church to pray. They couldn't even get out to the church to worship. Their house became a place to meet. People came in. They got so passionate about revival coming to their Isle, the Isle of Lewis. They got so passionate about it. They confronted the preacher and wanted to know if he was thoroughly right with God. And they prayed and prayed and prayed. And they'd seen the Lord, they said, with the church filled up and God blessing, a great overflow. And the fire of God struck. A tiny little obscure place off the coast of Scotland. And when it happened, there was a young teenage boy that got saved in it. His name was Donald. And the preacher became so dependent upon Donald and so close to Donald, he would ask him to lead in public prayers and help him with the meetings. And he did. Oh, how God worked. People began to hear about it, and the revival fire spread. It spread. And God blessed in a great way. Those two old women, the people don't want in the church anymore. And from that same island, there was a young girl who was a cousin to Donald Smith, who immigrated to America. Her name was Marianne Smith McLeod. She came to America in 1936. She met a man named Fred. And they were married. They fell in love. They were married. God blessed in a great way. And those old women were her aunts. And they came out of that fiery revival. They really experienced revival. And they sent a Bible, a copy of the Word of God that had been used in a special way in that revival, to Marianne. She started having children. I think it was 1937 she had her first child, and then after his father, Fred. Then she had her second child, named after herself, Marianne. Then she had her third child, Elizabeth. Then she had her fourth child, and she was so impacted by this teenage boy God had used in that revival of the Hebrides. She named him Donald. And she gave him that Bible, the Hebrides Revival Bible. He was born in 1946. He's now the 45th President of the United States. And that revival Bible is in the Oval Office. I'm saying to you, I don't know how, why, I don't know how it all comes together. But I believe God is putting some things together to give us just a window. If he could find some open people who know what the window's for. Can this be the time the window is open? Providentially, God has prepared the moment, and we will become the people of prayer, pleading with God. This is a plea. Will thou not revive us again? Will you be a part of that? Will you?
I just don't think that's all a coincidence. You know,
a lot of interesting things,
especially with everything that's going on right now and all the revelation that's happening and the revival we're seeing here. You know, we see a lot of people becoming a little more, having a little better, or actually having a walk with God. And so anyway, when you brought up Scotland, it reminded me of the Hebrides, and reminded me of this whole revival, reminded me of this whole, that there's so many connections. There's just so many connections, and they all seem to come back. They all, like as Saki would say, they circle back. They always seem to circle back. And it's like the late 1800s. Like, yes, for whatever reason, it's just like
circles back. Well, can we get a little tinfoiling George Norrie on it? I want to tell you what. Can I present something to everyone? What I'm wondering, and tell me if I'm way off base. But I'm sensing, because I just, like I said, did the reading last night of the Smoky God. So the area of the Antarctic, or the frozen silent circle of this world realm, is of interest. And the fact that it's been, secretive, anything that's been made secret from us, that already begs to have attention placed on it. So I happen to look at, because we talk about mud floods and the 1800s as being this sudden time period where all of these amazing buildings were constructed. They were all the blueprints, the construction, the transporting of materials, and workforces, and the skill sets were of another dimension. You had to have people that knew how to put in all of these details. It's not just I already know I'm talking to the choir, singing to the choir, but the inside, the interior of these buildings, there's no way. Like, you'd have to have how many people to do the interior and exterior? They want us to believe that these things were done, like John said, in 6 months or even 3 years. You couldn't do a project like that with hand tools from the Bronze Age. You can't do it. So there were no technological jumps until the Industrial Revolution. So it causes us to just wonder, why are they lying in a way that all you have to do is ask simple questions and really look at things and think, this is not working out. The math and everything is not working out. So why are they lying about this time period? And these, like you said, these 1%ers, why are they getting credit for all of these things, these advances in architecture? And I'm wondering, in terms of the Arctic Circle and the focus being there, because I have to tell you all, honestly, I never understood glaciers, even something as simple as a glacier. When I think about the glaciers and how they form, and if you read the Smoky God, it talks about glaciers being like 20 miles long. So we're talking like, for Karen who lives in New York City, imagine like a skyscraper and it's 20 miles long and it's all ice. It's like, oh, I can't conceptualize that. That's crazy. So you have the icebergs, and then you have glacier formation. And I never paid attention, maybe in school. I don't know. I'm getting it now after all these years, that this ice formed almost like a mud flood. That's what I want to present. I'm seeing that the mud flood, possibly the flood and all of this ice and Antarctica, and possibly the Garden of Eden, the location of it being the navel of the earth, that there's something about that area and its connection to the Garden of Eden, and the fact that our cosmology is not correct, because NASA has told us we live on a ball, and they've told us what gravity is. But then you wonder, because all of Sir Isaac Newton and Copernicus and all these people, they're in the brotherhood. So whenever you see them, they have the hand, like they're looking for their phone, right? Don't they do this in the pictures? They look like, where's my phone? Where'd I leave my wallet, right? So they're taking pictures like that. Then they're doing things like, they all go to certain schools. And it just outright tell you that they're Freemasons and they're this and Rosicrucians. So it's right there. So I'm saying all this to say that Smoky God book, even though I'm a little bit hesitant to even say the Smoky God, because I don't really understand what that means. And I know I had to read that the father believed in Odin and things like that. I never studied who Odin was. So I'm just kind of like, what's going on right now? I know that there's a system out of that area, like the Druids, and I don't understand the Druids as much, but it seems that a lot started in Scotland. When we think about beginnings, like Genesis, so you think about golf started in Scotland. You have chess. Now I'm going to just go on a limb. Chess started in Scotland. And we have these Norse mythologies and the proximity to the Arctic. Now, when we think about Tartaria, what I want to just present is that, could Tartaria have been stuck between two realms? Because I'm trying to understand, how did these buildings get built? And I'm wondering, because of the beta test that me and Girl Code were talking about the other day, about that guy on TikTok that's doing this weird, like, it seems like a augmented reality. So I'm wondering, could these buildings, because Girl Code talks about like almost like a 3D printer, that she was trying to explain, like, these material things could literally be like a 3D printer from another dimension or another timeline or something. I was like, whoa. So that kind of like makes sense. Like, what if there was like almost like a Philadelphia experiment type of thing, where these buildings were from another timeline, like the Tartaria timeline? Is that making sense, or am I just talking?
Well, that's a possibility, because it ties in with that thing that I showed you yesterday, the day before, about the, let's see if I can find it here.
Oh, Karen is saying some people believe Argartha is an Earth, another parallel existence. Really?
This is the like kind of the famous map of it here, of Agartha, and this, if you look at it, kind of, it sounds similar to the description of the Smoky God, you know, because see, up in the North Pole here, and where the entrance is in the South Pole as well. Didn't they spend like 2.5 years there?
Yeah, 2.5 years. Like,
traveling around to all these different cities and all these different.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was funny because Karen, I did the same thing, Karen. I was watching about an hour and a half in, I fell asleep. I woke up like all like we disoriented, like you don't know where you're at, kind of thing. Like
That was funny to tell you such a story and like it was too like chill, right? I bet a few people probably fell asleep. I'm not offended. I'm not.
no, it was just. I think it's just like sometimes my brain, if I'm just like I'm like calm and relaxed, and because normally my brain's going 1,000 miles an hour,
Right.
and as soon as I get any chance to calm down, it's just like my brain just shuts down and my eyes follow. And
Definitely.
let's see here. Hold on.
Linda says you climbed an iceberg. Whoa, I bet it was like being in another world. Oh my goodness. How did you do that, Linda? Was it from a cruise? Did you go on that Alaska cruise? Now I'm like,
They shot her out of a cannon.
fascinated with it now. I can't even imagine, like, from what I'm reading and just some of the things I'm putting together for my next live stream. I'm amazed at the vision of these stuff. Why wasn't I interested in it? I'm kind of kicking myself.
So since the tinfoil hats are buzzing right now, when you brought up the whole Tartaria timeline thing with the possible crossing of realities, like a Philadelphia experiment, I showed this to Jennifer. Was this? I don't know if it was yesterday or day before, but I'm going to show you guys. But again, just Jennifer and I are kind of advanced tinfoilers, so it doesn't shock us, some of the concepts, but I don't want you to get upset about what I'm about to show you, or the idea of what I'm about to show you. So came across this. It's called Tartaria, Jesus Christ by David Ewing Jr. This is a theory that Jesus founded this society during the millennial reign of Christ, described in the book of Revelation. They use a series of scriptures along with the Tartarian theory and the widespread conspiracy that the Middle Ages never happened to formulate a 1,000-year empire ruled by Jesus himself. We are currently living in the period after the reign of Christ, also described in the book of Revelation. Therefore, Satan himself is trying to keep the truth of Tartaria from us. Have you ever heard this theory before? Do you believe it? So anyway, this is just one of those things.
That is a theory that's floating. I hadn't heard it in this way, put in how this site put it, but I have heard theories on maybe Levy and, like I showed you, Michelle Gibson and some of those they're like I guess you would say the gurus of the mud flood and flat earth spheres. But I've heard that many of them are floating theories that could we be in the short period. Right. A lot of us thought that we were the generation possibly to either be raptured, if you still ascribe to the rapture, as they say the rapture theory. I don't know if that would offend anybody, but I used to ascribe to the rapture. I no longer do, but I was very, very very into pre-trib rapture. I went to conferences with Hal Lindsey and all of those guys. I listened to Jack Vanapee. Do you remember Jack Vanapee? Do you know about him? And he had the wife Rexella. You remember they had the big hair? Where are they now? Do they know where Jack Vanapee is? And they were so excited. They looked like they had drank like 2 pots of coffee. Do you remember? It's like, yes, Rexella, yes, Jack. Oh my God, Jesus is coming. The rapture is going to happen any minute. Oh my God! But am I scared or am I excited? I didn't know what I was, but when I listened to them, I would get like really keyed up. So that group of whatever you want to call them, the eschatology crowd, they made it seem as if it was imminent. You know, they would always use the words imminent. It's imminent. We're going to hear the trumpet of God, and we're all going to be like up in the air, you know? So I was expecting a lot of that to happen by now because you were taught that certain signs would happen before that time. So if I was really into it, like junkie, I was like really extreme into this movement. So I now am looking at, okay, so where's the temple? Because that was one of the big markers. Remember, if you followed eschatology, the temple in Jerusalem, and the big problem with that logistically is how you going to get them off the Temple Mount, because you kind of have a problem. There's a big mosque there. And I don't think they would take too well to having their mosque taken away, right? So that's not going to go very well. So that was the big thing. It never made sense in a way, because it's like, well, you have to build your temple there. Now, I don't know how you're going to work out the mosque situation, but that's going to take a bit of time, because I don't think that's going to just happen. If it does happen, that's going to be a war. Okay. So I didn't understand how they were ever going to work that part out. Right. So if you can't build the temple on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, then you have a problem, in my opinion, with the end time scenario of a pre-rapture or any rapture, because the Antichrist has to go into the temple, right? Am I just crazy, or did I read the wrong books? That's what I understood. So I still because the Bible nerds, right? A lot of us are Bible nerds. We were the nerd kids that wanted to read Ezekiel, right? We were like, hey, you guys, the wheels and the wheels, and everybody's looking at you like, huh? Like, oh, okay. We don't read Ezekiel. We don't talk about it too much. Like, get into it.
Right.
So you learn.
Yeah, people are freaked out by Ezekiel.
They're freaked out. So you learn I can't talk about Ezekiel unless I talk about it on a surface. I can't talk about all this other like supernatural stuff that's in the Bible, right? It's like, wow. Okay. So the supernatural is only relegated to the dark side. That's why a lot of us get involved in the dark stuff, because the dark stuff is more like they're not afraid to talk about these things. And I think it satisfies a lot of the curiosity in a lot of us nerds, right? Because we can dig into history, mythology, and all this stuff. And the church a lot of times tells you to stay away. Don't read that. Don't do that. You're going to open doors. The devil's going to leap on you. It's like, oh, okay. And you know what it does? It diminishes their authority. I'll just say that. They have shot themselves in the foot, because, if a Bible nerd cannot feel comfortable in church, you have problems, right? So they lose the Bible nerds. They lose them to the New Age movement. They lose them to the dark side, right? So I'm saying that to say that I'm no longer ascribing to the rapture. It just doesn't seem like it's imminent anymore. It doesn't. And if that's not the case, then how long are we going to put up with Hillary running amok? How long will justice have to be prolonged? I mean, it comes to a point where you just lose interest. I don't want to hear about Hillary anymore. I'm not interested. I used to be lock her up from 2000 on. Now I'm like, I don't care what y'all do with her, whatever. I might start liking Hillary. We're almost getting to the circle back where I might start laughing at her. She might become funny like Joe Biden to me, not scary Hillary that does all the frazzle drip and everything. It's like, you know what? If she could do frazzle drip and all this stuff, and she's not put away somewhere publicly, like humiliated, a perp walk, I don't care if it's her I don't care if it's her twin sister. I want to see every clone, every stand-in for Hillary, all of them put in. I want to see it public. I want to see it in the Los Angeles Times, okay? That's all I want to see. Hillary, I just want to see her. I don't care about everybody else. Can we get Hillary finally? Or no? But all I'm saying is, after you kind of go through certain rabbit holes that lead to what is, I don't know the word, it doesn't lead to a place where you feel like it's satisfying the justice piece of things. Secret justice is not going to do it, not for long. We've got to see something change and shift. But in terms of
Happened today.
in terms of this short period, that's why I could be warm to the thought of maybe we've been so psyoped that we're not in that time period that we thought. Maybe we are Revelations 21st on. I don't know. I'm just floating it out there. I hope John doesn't get hate mail for it. Can I just at least question? And
don't worry about it.
I'm probably a reason.
Don't worry about it.
Am I the reason you get hate mail? Or I guess her, that one.
No, but here, let's. Those of you that don't think Durham is real, he made an appearance today.
Look, there he is! Woohoo!
Russia probe starts today.
They started picking jurors today.
They are?
Yeah.
Mm.
And the judge has already allowed a lot of the supposed privileged emails between HRC.
It just like I don't know.
Judges allowed it.
But don't you see what I'm saying? Am I being a brat? I'm not interested anymore. I'm just going to say it. I'm going to say what some people are thinking. Hillary Clinton doesn't trigger me anymore, and she used to. I don't care about her anymore. She's like I don't care. You guys let her get away too long. I don't care. You know, it's not a big deal to America to make sure a person so evil gets a perp walk. I don't care about the reasons why. I want to see her do a perp walk. Mainstream. I want it to be mainstream. So my thing is like, I don't care about Hillary. I don't care. Whatever. Next.
Here, I don't have a perp walk for you, but I got something else. I know when Jennifer's getting ready to
have a rant
to go year one on everybody.
I think I just need to go on a trip. Maybe I need to go to Iceland or somewhere. Norway. I'm thinking different places now. I'd love to do it.
Since we were talking about Tesla a little earlier, there's been a lot of things that have come forward, again, late 1800s, that kind of got swept under the rug. This has to do with healing. Let's see. Tesla coil violet ray technology creates ozone penetrating the skin, can act as a disinfectant in the cells of the body. Ozone kills the thing we were just going through the last couple of years in the cells, a form of light disinfectant. The violet ray was originally developed by the famous scientist Nikola Tesla. Tesla was successfully experimenting on disease and rejuvenation with ozone in the late 1800s and early 1900s. In the 20s and 30s, oxygen zone therapy was used in hospitals, clinics, and sanitariums. Yeah, sanitariums were all the rage back in the late 1800s, I'll tell you.
I love that name too, sanitarium.
Yeah. It's like Arkham Asylum and Batman or something. In the second half of the 20th century, pharmaceutical companies started disparaging all electrotherapies as drug-oriented medicine was taking off under the Flexner Report, which banned everything from being taught in medical school besides deadly allopathy. And this talking about the time in history where basically this is kind of was like the start of Big Pharma. Like they were trying to influence doctors into prescribing this stuff and not using proven techniques or promising new advanced techniques.
Exactly.
Uh,
Exactly.
Tesla had a hunch that since his high potential currents could be passed into the body harmlessly, these currents might lend themselves to electrotherapeutic uses. He experimented upon himself. When Tesla was struck down in the streets by a New York taxi, I didn't know that, he didn't deliver himself over to the medicals, but dragged himself up to his own hotel room where, in seclusion and with the help of his own electrotherapy, he recovered from his fractures and contusions. He never patented electrotherapy, but in 1891 began publishing his observations in technical journals. And 7 years later, we find Tesla giving a speech to the American Electrotherapeutic Association, in which he details with drawings the violet ray apparatus he has invented for this purpose, which included a Tesla coil. The violet ray was ultimately banned by a fake doctor commissioned by the Rockefellers. I wonder if his name was Fraudgy. And of course, there's the name again, Rockefellers, Carnegies. This is again at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. Named Abraham Flexner. Sounds like a Saturday Night Live name that Chevy Chase would have. Where did they come up with these names? Abraham Flexner. It's like Fletch, if you ever saw the movie Fletch or something like that.
Oh yeah,
you know?
that's right. Yeah.
Abraham, it's like a name that would show up in that movie. Abraham Flexner. He's like a Jewish superhero or something. Let's see. In his Flexner report of 1910, the stage was set for pharmaceuticals and allopathy, with many alternative healing modalities deemed quack. There's that, labeling things, trying to put it out there just so people, like, if they hear the word quack, they have to believe it. If you hear it enough, it's got it. Oh yeah, I heard about that Tesla thing. That's a quack. I wouldn't use that.
It's like the equivalent of a conspiracy theory.
Racist, or like whatever. Quack just happened to be the racist of the day.
Right.
Removing AMA certification from schools who taught these therapies and destroying the doctors who used them. That sounds familiar. The USA is the only country in the world where ozone therapy and electrotherapy are banned. The FDA on the violet ray. So this is a weird picture, but this was the device or whatever. So basically, it only harmed the harmful cells. Like they resonated at the same frequency. So it destroyed those cancer cells and stuff like that and left healthy cells alone. He also had another machine, which I don't have a picture of because I was too lazy to download it when I saw it the first time. It was like a chair that you sat in, and it you were able to adjust the frequencies and where the frequencies were going, like whether they're in your arm or your thorax, like your abdomen, your legs, whatever. And you could, like, if you knew that like cancer cells vibrated at a certain frequency, you could attune it to that and would only affect those cells. So
yeah,
I'd like to find one of those again. I mean, there was a prototype for it because I've seen a picture of it. But again, this was right at the late 1800s, early 1900s, when these same players that started this, industrial revolution, as they keep calling it, to enrich themselves and to enslave mankind.
Yeah.
So anything that happened before that must have been a detriment to their plans to enslave people and to enrich themselves.
There you are. They must have been losing. And that's what, like, even David Carrico, he mentions a lot that the Puritans were having a good effect. So it must have been maybe this whole revival kind of thing, like something was about to turn and they had to do this, whatever they did, create a cataclysm, take that technology and use it for, like, bad in terms of, is that Tartarian knowledge? I don't know, because when I read The Smoky God again, going back to that book, do you remember the technology that was mentioned in that story? I mean, they said the people were communicating on on waves, on sound. Like they were sending the sound waves out, and whatever was happening in the atmosphere, it was charged. And the
Mhm.
water, like every day, do you remember how they said every day at a certain time the water would start coming up like a whatever, a steam
Like
type of stuff?
effervescence, like, and it would just like make that cloud wall kind of thing, like that.
Right. And then they have
And they
the
also had the glowing, the red sun, the glowing,
mhm,
which wasn't the regular sun. This was
mhm,
it was interesting because it sounds a lot like if you listen or read the description that is in Admiral Byrd's Lost Diary or Secret Diary. It's he describes almost exactly the same thing. Even the way he describes the people that he encountered, the beings that he encountered,
mhm,
describes them kind of the same way, that they were, really tall. I don't know if that he called them giants or not, because I think of the Smoky God, these guys were like 12 feet tall or whatever. So they were literally giants.
mhm, mhm,
Um, but it's all weird and interesting that, you had Admiral Byrd,
mhm.
you had Willis Emerson, who was all over the country, by the way. He's been in some, and they always end up in Los Angeles. Jennifer and I talked
Yeah,
about
always. What
why
is
all
that?
these weirdos end up in Los Angeles back, it's
Yeah, always in LA. And then you think about Laurel Canyon and the stuff that goes on there. And I know somebody out in LA that travels around all through Laurel Canyon and stuff. So they see a lot of these underground type of like markers and things. Like you'll see a tunnel type of thing maybe that was shut off, or just weird stuff. And he documents it. So the thing about also another, I want to ask you all this. When you think about the time period of the 1800s and then the fact that it mirrors so closely because they had a pandemic as well. See, I keep forgetting to plug that in. And I'm going to have to circle back to the pandemic that they had then, because it's called the Spanish flu. And they did the
Mhm.
same thing with the masks. And that's what's so weird and head trippy, is they were doing the same weird things, like with the conditioning of the public, to wear the masks and whatever else they were doing. But it was a lot of weird pictures where you could see almost like the equivalent of the TikTok nurses. Like you could see nurses that looked like they were faking these pictures and making this stuff look worse than it was, right? Have you seen some of those things that are really strange about the Spanish flu? Oh, John, your sound is out.
Oh, they were just muted. I was watching a video, trying to see if it was the video I was looking for.
Okay.
Um, but after that ended, one of the biggest things that if you look up, the biggest cause of deaths was from like bacterial pneumonia from wearing masks.
Mhm.
Like
Wow.
it wasn't the Spanish flu itself. It was it was the masks that killed people.
Right. Right. And
I
I
mean,
think
I'm
Fauci.
sure other people died from the flu, don't get me wrong, but
Right.
the wearing of the masks exacerbated, um,
Exactly.
because they all got back. A lot of people got bacterial pneumonia and they died of pneumonia.
Yeah. And that can sound bad in itself when they isolate and say they died of pneumonia. But like you're saying, if it's caused by a mask, something that could easily be removed, that wasn't necessary in the start. So it then brings the time travel piece to this, because whoever these 1%ers are, they knew something in advance, because they're operating on a playbook as if they know something. And the Spanish flu and then the coronavirus, like it's just too weird with the mask and the public psyoping. And the fact that they are talking about a reset now, And there are theories, and it makes sense that the 1800s might have been a big masking of a reset. And so their reset is like they want to win the game of chess. So if they find out that they're checkmated, then they want to take the death ray technology from Tesla and let's cause a mud flood. So the mud flood and then the flood of Noah is just so many interesting pieces to it. Your sound. I don't hear you.
Oh, I'm not talking,
Oh,
but I'm just nodding.
no, but you know what I'm saying? Like, what it's so many overlapping pieces. And when you think about 5G, and this is real tinfoily, but a lot of people were very concerned about the 5G being activated because they felt like once the nano got into the bodies, then it would be easy for the 5G to be connected to that in some way, even if you don't understand it from a science basis. That seems coincidental that they want to push this, 5G stuff and then also push this nano into the body. So, it's got to have like some kind of, connections. Because they weren't allowing you to talk about it. Remember, they would censor if you talked about 5G. It was like, you're making us believe that it's true. If it wasn't a big deal, then let it just, let it go away. Let the crazy people talk about it, and then we'll all see they're crazy. But when they go out of their way to shut people up from talking about it, then that's when it's like, okay.
Yeah, there's I got a couple videos on that actually. Let's see here.
Oh wow, look at what Karen says. Every 100 years. Oh, there's a pandemic and a reset. Look at that. Wow.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Because that's when the pops or grandpa kicks the bucket, and then it's the next generation's turn, and they want their own world. So we're going to reset it to the way we want it, and not the way the grandpa or dad had it. We want our own reset. But yeah, it is what it is. Let's see here. I don't know if this is it. There's just a lot of weird. Might as well show some of these videos. There's just a lot of weird shiz associated with 5G. So let's see. Karen says, I think the Freemasons wrote a 300-year plan.
Yeah.
I need me a 300-year plan. All right. This is a weird ring over a 5G tower. I don't know where this is.
Nag-vape dito, malaking kapre. Grabe yung usok, ang galing.
So there's that.
Oh boy, that looks like shit. Doesn't that look like H.P. Lovecraft type of stuff? Is that Cthulhu in the sky? What the heck? Like a big Ouroboros, doesn't it?
Yes.
That's
and this guy supposedly, I can't verify this, but he installs 5G tower, or works on the equipment. So we'll play this one too.
Been erecting 5G masts and towers like the one behind me for the past few weeks, so everybody else has been knocked down. Don't crack open these kids because it's literally asked not to. But that's the best thing is for me to show you. The best thing I just show you. Look. This piece of 5G kit, this is code 19 on it. I don't really know what I need for that to produce my company that produces circuitry like this. That has the brand name code 19, but that's what it says on the circuit board. conspiracy theories. There's all that stuff online about coronavirus and COVID-19, but I put circuitry like that, the towers like that, just understand.
And plus, you have a lot of instances where people are talking about birds are dying flying around it, and there's instances of drones catching on fire if they fly too close to them.
Generation technology promises faster download speeds and conveniences that most of us have never dreamed of, but will also be blanketed with a new type of radiation called millimeter waves. Health experts are warning about the rising risks with a 5G rollout.
It's not been made clear to the public that 5G won't just be another number and letter on your cell phone. It requires an entirely new infrastructure of thousands of small cellular antennas to be erected throughout cities where it's going to be installed.
What would 5G infrastructure look like? Small cell antennas could be placed as close as every third hydro pole. Scientists from 42 countries are now warning their governments about the emerging health problems associated with wireless radiation, and Canadian doctors and scientists have added their voices.
The most prevalent symptoms include headache, fatigue, decreased ability to concentrate, tinnitus, irritability, and insomnia. Impacts on the heart and the nervous system are also of great concern.
Dr. Rena Bray has been working at the Provincial Environmental Health Clinic for 15 years and seen the number of people suffering adverse effects from electromagnetic exposure rising.
We are concerned the upcoming introduction of 5G will significantly increase the proximity and extent of exposure to microwave radiation in Ontarians. We predict that the number of people who develop the symptoms I just mentioned will rise in the places where 5G is first installed.
Dr. Magda Havis is internationally recognized for her research on the biological effects of electromagnetic pollution. She said that at high intensities, these waves cause intense heat and pain because sweat glands on the surface of our skin act like mini antennas.
At lower frequencies, scientists are predicting damage to eyes, loss of insect populations which are already declining, antibiotic resistance in bacteria, and physiological effects on the nervous system and on the immune system.
Radiation from radio frequencies is classed in the same category of carcinogens as lead. One advisor to the World Health Organization said there's enough evidence that if they were to re-evaluate radio frequency radiation,
it would be placed in class 1, i.e. a human carcinogen, and governments could not possibly ignore that.
Some say the scientific debate about the health effects of microwave radiation is over, but the question remains, can we afford to take this risk? Medical doctors are requesting delayed deployment until testing can be conducted on the long-term biological effects of 5G.
Jeez, wasn't expecting that.
I know, a lot of surprises in these videos.
Biologists are baffled at what is killing birds across several states in the country, including Ohio.
Several birds across central Ohio, like this one, are dying for unknown reasons, an unknown disease.
New information this morning about the unexplained increase in sick and dying songbirds in multiple states.
Concern continues to grow about a mysterious illness affecting songbirds all across the Midwest. Conservation officials say the strange disease has not been detected
after reports of sick and dying songbirds. But it's not just happening there. Cases have been reported in Kentucky and Ohio as well.
You may have noticed, have you seen any birds around that have been dying? Wildlife officials say it's become a big problem. Mysterious deaths of birds all over, including right here in Pennsylvania and Delaware. So many of our counties, people are finding these dead birds in 27 different counties just in Pennsylvania.
An illness linked to a mysterious medical condition. Experts don't know if this can be passed to people or pets.
Information tonight on reports that songbirds in central Indiana are dying because of a mysterious illness.
Anyway, this isn't the video I thought it was, but that could be a whole different show by itself. Let's see here.
Yeah, you know, the things about the birds and the bees, literally the birds and the bees. We heard about the colony collapse disorder, like that would have been late 2000s, early to mid 2000s, and probably earlier than that. I'm sure there was an early warning of it. And then the birds, some of the birds were just dropping dead. Yeah, not just disappearing, but just dropping dead. But again, going back to the book that we were referencing, do you remember the part where they talked about certain birds? I like the way they put it in the book. They quit. They quit the earth, the top part of the earth. So when those birds migrate, that was something from the book that was very fascinating. I want to look into it more. They migrate and they all collect like in that area, and they can fly. And what he was as far out as that, and he was saying that that's where they leave this part of the world realm and go to the inner earth because they know that they're going to live a better life. So I thought that was interesting. Do you remember that from the book, if anybody read it?
I haven't read it yet. Actually, I want to I want to listen to it. So I might just have to watch a show again and just listen to it, like not like watch the TV,
Yeah, yeah. That was one of the pieces that is so many parts to that book. I'm telling you all, I'm going to be breaking that book down more and more because it's a fascinating thing. Like I said, I could take what's happening with this, the animals and everything, and what is the answer? Like, because these people aren't going to stop. There's no breaks for these people. They have to be stopped in a very dramatic way from getting their reset. Like Karen says, every 100 years. They can't keep doing this. This is it. Last one for them.
Yeah, and you got a lot of people like Justin White and others talking about. Well, Justin White's been talking about the whole rapture, ascension, time flip, whatever you want to call it. Like since our timeline was stolen, this process that's happening is a way to not only restore it, but to place us somewhere where we can't be harmed again. But it seems like a lot of people are coming up with that now. There's somebody that I follow for other things outside of this was always about and strictly about like all the Q drops, all the Q posts. She was a great decoder. Her name is Mel Q. And within the last week or two, or maybe 2 weeks, she's been posting almost exclusively like ascension stuff. Let's see here if I have that. I just thought it was interesting that just out of the blue totally flipped, and that's what she's posting about right now. Let's see here. Who did? Where'd it go? I just had it a second ago. Oh, here it is. I had it in the Adam and Eve story folder from that show.
Oh.
If you guys remember that show. Casey says, my dog went from having petite malls to grand malls.
Oh no, really? Sorry.
1 a month to 3 to 5 a day. Jeez, sorry to hear that.
Something 3 to 5 a day for. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, Casey. What kind of dog? Oh, it's so hard to watch the pets suffer. They're so sweet, and they suffer because of all of this stuff that these evil 1%ers do.
Yeah, I'm just gonna, again, this is totally unrelated, I think, to what we're talking about, but I find some of these shifts in people's sudden shifts interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it is a planned shift or something they just stumbled upon and they're like whole hog about it. But never once in any of her posts before ever did she talk about this stuff. And then just suddenly, literally like boom, like somebody flipped a switch and just all of a sudden these are all the posts. So she has this. It's called this Great Awakening map here. This QHHT from Dolores Cannon, quantum healing hypnosis technique, past life regression. So this is like one of the first posts she posted about it. She posted QHHT Bio Dolores and her hypnosis work has discovered 3 waves of volunteers. Some have come direct from the source, in quotes, and have never lived in any type of physical body before. Others have lived as space beings on other planets or other dimensions because all memory is erased upon entry to the Earth dimension. They do not remember their assignment. Thus, these beautiful souls have a difficult time adjusting to our chaotic world. These souls have a vital role to play as they help all of the rest of us ascend to the new Earth. So, let's see here. Hold on here. So she posted this one too. And again, this is like within the first week of doing it. I just copied some of them because I thought this is weird. This is totally weird that she's posting about this. Why is she posting about this? Never like this. The internet. It is oneself that God must be realized. She says, food for thought, a personal divine feminine Kundalini terminal as a difference between her God self and the egos, also known as the dark night of the soul. Thoughts are projected out and they create our own realities. Good and or bad, once mastered, this ultimately leads to the ego death and possibly Christ consciousness. Is it possible the planet and people of the planet are going through a collective Kundalini, experiencing the inner turmoil of ego, higher God, self-deceit, and discernment, and projecting our own realities and our dark night of the soul onto the planet, which you see in our current news cycle. Once played out and mastered, our ego dies and we are left raptured, in quotes, achieving Christ consciousness. So I thought it was just weird that she started posting about this stuff. And she has this huge map that she has linked. And there are all these arrows pointing all these different things, and they go in a cycle. And it's just, I don't know, maybe this.
You know what? I think Casey's saying you're breaking up. Like, yeah, it is. It's the reception, and I think it's on StreamYard's side.
Yeah, I actually literally had to call Spectrum for the last week or so. Our upload speed, which is what you would use for video for like this stuff, is like 1/10 of what it should be. Like our download speed's fine, but our upload speed is horrible. So supposedly they're coming out on Wednesday to take a look at it, but we'll see what they find, if they find anything. They usually give you a little bit of lip service, and then they always want you to restart the modem and do this and that. But you know what? I've already done all that stuff. It's something in the line somewhere. There's a connection that's bad or something.
I love when they tell you that. Reset it. Oh, so your doggy is a husky. I love huskies. Oh, I'm sorry. The windmills. Oh, I don't like windmills. I mean, I think the windmills, when we talk about Scandinavian and things like that, their windmills were different. Like, they go along with nature, but the windmills they put up here, it's for nefarious reasons. I don't like them. They look, to me, when I've seen those windmills in Texas, for instance, you know, the area where they have all the windmills in Texas, they give a eerie feeling when I first saw them. It just startled me because I couldn't explain why it gave me this bad feeling when I saw them. They're very enormous, and I don't like the way they move. They move like very creepy and cringy.
And they're not as green as people want to believe.
Definitely not green. They're definitely not green. It's nothing about them that makes sense to me.
And they're not eco-friendly. If they were brown, and if you have to get rid of them, it's not like you really can recycle them, you know. And they've got all these great windmill graveyards with all the little propellers and stuff laying on the ground for as far as the eye can see, and it's just, you know.
Terrible, terrible.
And you got a helicopter that's wasting a bunch of gas hovering above it while they got a guy dangling trying to clean these things, you know, and it's just, and they're killing. I think recently some place just got sued because their windmills killed like 100 bald eagles or some crazy number of bald eagles.
Oh.
And they got fined a ton of money for it, which is good. They should. Let's see. Casey says we have a lot not far from us. They're not green. No, they are not green.
They are not green. Definitely, definitely not. That is some kind of grift. Somebody's family got involved in something. They have something that involved with that whole what is it, windmill thing? Because it's like for a big country like this to put so many windmills up, like it's illogical and absurd to put a ton of windmills like that. Terrible. It's just, I'm so over it all. I really am. I'm over the dumb, stupid stuff that goes on. I know you are too, but I just wanted to share that. I'm over it.
I keep coming across some of these old things that I've saved for a while. They keep going from hard drive to hard drive to hard drive, you know, and it amazes me. So I'm gonna dip outside in the 1800s for a minute for a breather, and remember all the experts and everybody else that would say DDT was good for your kid. You know, they spray your kid with the DDT, they'd be bug free kind of thing. It was like a rhyme or something like that.
Wow.
Then you had stuff like this, you know, these cigarette commercials or ads. Blow in her face and she'll follow you anywhere.
Are you serious? They had an ad like that? Oh,
that's a real ad.
Are you kidding me? What? So this would be from probably the 60s, 70s with your.
I would imagine the 60s.
That is, what kind of mentality was going on in America that's so weird. Isn't it weird? It's like, blow what? Is that just regular cigarette? Like, come on, man. What?
And this is from Lucky Strike, which was a popular cigarette. Face the facts. When tempted to overindulge, reach for a Lucky instead. It's toasted. Your throat protection against irritation, against cough. And they make it look like these fit people, these athletes, they're smoking Lucky Strikes, and that this heavy dude who's not a smoker apparently.
That's really sick, like so dystopic. So it's like we think that things made sense back then and they only got worse, but that's a psyop. That's like gaslighting. There's nothing innocent about I guess we didn't have innocent times. I don't know. I'm like, that's clearly evil.
Yeah, there's let's see.
That is such an insult. What people fell for that too. Lucky Strike. The name alone. The jokes write themselves, don't they?
Yes.
Wow.
Where is it?
Unreal.
I can't find it. Literally, they're hard to find because some of them have been scrubbed, and
yeah,
but they're out there. They're out there.
All the lawsuits. Remember Big Tobacco, where they had to start telling the truth about a lot of stuff. They knew that the products were addictive and harmful.
Yeah, and that's another thing. A lot of the cigarette commercials that say, good for pregnant women, that kind of thing. Just
Oh,
like the vax is good for pregnant women.
see,
You
it
know?
goes around in it's a circle back I'm seeing. So it's like, they say that time is not linear. Is it cyclical? Is it what's going on here? Because it's like we went right and circled back to like I said, the Spanish flu and all this other stuff, whatever happened from the Great Depression again, they're trying to push this whatever happened in the 1800s. It's so bizarre.
There's just
Oh yeah.
there's something about the 1800s. Yeah, the Marlboro Man.
The Marlboro Man, terrible. How many
They
men?
made a movie.
It's so
Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man.
yeah, they related to that trope of the rugged.
Right. Yeah, like women like the rugged cowboy type.
Mhm. Wow, the Marlboro Man. And those were strong cigarettes. Like they didn't even have a filter, right?
No,
Marlboro.
they did. I smoked them without a filter, though. I took the filters off.
Oh, you were a real
I did.
Marlboro Man, huh? Take the filters
Yeah,
off.
I'm sure I'll pay for it later. But yeah, I
No.
quit smoking probably, I don't know, about 6 years ago.
Oh, good. Well, the lungs, the tissue of the lungs does rejuvenate quickly. So if anybody needs to quit that habit, just know that does happen. If you support of course, support your tissues. Oh, Camels didn't have a filter. That's what my grandfather smoked, Camels. I would have to go get his. Remember, they had them in the machines, and I would always want to pull. I'd want to pull the lever so I could get the cigarettes. Like, yay! I want to do it. Can you imagine? Like they had. Oh my God! Am I going back in time? People smoked in public. Remember, they smoked on airplanes. I remember getting on
everywhere.
Then they were like on the plane already lighting up, waiting, to take off so people would just start smoking, and it's like a smoky plane. Do you
Yeah, you
remember?
couldn't smoke in the lavatory. The old lavatory.
Yeah, they had a smoking section on the airplanes. Wow, good times.
Apparently, you could have sex in the lavatory, but you couldn't smoke.
Crazy.
What do they call that? The Mile High Club or something like that?
Yeah, that's what the stewardesses, they've talked about that. Their whatever their rites of passage, or I don't know, whoever. Crazy times. I mean, look at how the airline industry has degraded. We've watched that happen quickly. It used to.
It's unbelievable how a lot of things have gone downhill. And
Really have.
I mean, it literally is, and I don't think it's a coincidence that Mr. Schwab is calling this like the fourth industrial revolution or whatever, the World Economic Forum's calling it. It's like they're announcing it.
Yeah.
You saw what happened with the first revolution, industrial revolution. Well, we're on the fourth one now.
Wow.
So
it makes
it's
sense. I
the
mean,
same people, same families, the same people, the same agendas, the same. It literally is just passing out of family business. And this is good because kids are getting up to family business. They're not and be rich and have these girls and all these castles and all these whatever. I don't want to live that lifestyle. I don't think we've had somebody in one of those families come out and say that.
Yeah, they don't even
of.
live the lifestyle. If you've ever watched, I want to circle back. I should write it down. Have you ever heard of the documentary by one of the Johnson and Johnson heirs? Have you heard of that one?
No, I don't think so.
Johnson and Johnson. So one of the heirs of that big family, he has always been the black sheep, the gypsy, the one that doesn't read from the script. So he didn't care about being, excommunicated, written out of the wills. He was tired of the family and all of the evil. So he began to expose the family. And you can imagine the media would take his requests, because he would go to the media like, I want to tell you about my family, because he did a documentary. Can you imagine? He did a documentary. And I want to watch the documentary because I don't think I've ever watched it in full. I've just seen pieces of it. But he pretty much spills the beans on the family. And they couldn't shut him down. Like, I don't know how he was able, I don't know what's up with him today, but he told about the evil things that they knew that they were putting in their products. And when you think about Johnson and Johnson and the fact that a lot of their products are used on babies, it just makes it all the more just wicked. And then all the women that got sick from the talcum powder, they developed cancers from talcum powder. And it's just a lot of things about that family. But the heir to the family really like told the family secrets. So I just want to say, if you want to check it out, it's pretty, I think it's pretty like, I don't know, it's kind of like, how they do the exposés and stuff. So it was done in a really engaging way.
Yeah, I like those kind of. Yeah, and sometimes you wonder if there's an agenda, like they're doing it out of spite or something, But
True. I mean,
other times, it's got to be legit. These people have to be under so much pressure and scrutiny and that kind of stuff, and that lifestyle is not for everybody, especially when you're harming other people or you're emotionally damaging other people, or whatever the case is.
Right.
Some people just don't want to be part of that.
They don't. It's a lot of people that don't. And you would be surprised. I mean, people, they say things to these kind of people like, why wouldn't you want to just chill on your dad's money? Well, I mean, now we're learning a lot about how these elite families have raised their children. And maybe it was a situation where they were involved in SRA. We don't know, behind closed doors. And why would someone turn their back on a family fortune? It has to be pretty bad, right? So
yeah.
I understand, because I'd be that one, probably turning my back on the family fortune, like, get out of here. I'm not going to play the game,
Yeah. And speaking of windmills, I finally found the graphic that I was looking for while you were talking. A 2-megawatt windmill is made up of 260 tons of steel that required 300 tons of iron ore and 170 tons of coking coal, all mined, transported, and produced by hydrocarbons. A windmill can spin until it falls apart and never generate as much energy as invested in building it.
Wow. Wow. Unreal.
So take that. Not you, but you know what I mean. So I think since my internet connection is sucky, I want to end with some funny stuff. You all know that I like my funny stuff, and I think people should laugh, especially Jennifer, because she snorts, and when she really laughs. But I do like the funny stuff, because I think we should all have a sense of humor. We should all laugh. God wants us to laugh. Even if it's at ourselves, he wants us to laugh. So some of these, I'm going to say ahead of time, I'm sorry, but they are funny to me. And I hope they don't offend you. I think you guys got thick enough skins and that kind of stuff that, it's not going to melt your glass. So, here we go. Where'd it go? Since we were talking about reptilians, I'm not gonna word it. You guys can read it. Okay, Jennifer doesn't find that one funny.
No, it's not on.
Oh, hold on.
Oh, I can't. It's your I only see your screen saver. Oh, okay, now it is. Okay, let's see. And then I told them after the 7th booster shot, we'd let them see their. Oh, that's horrible. You know that's what they do, laugh.
Mhm.
Sick thing. It's like the Squid Games, like those sick elite that go and watch the Squid Games. Wow. The lizard people, huh?
Can you see that one?
It didn't come up yet. Just the same one with the lizards is the only thing showing.
Really?
Uh-huh. Isn't that what you all see too? It hasn't advanced.
Hold on. So you don't see that one, huh? Well, what the heck? Hold on. This is getting annoying, actually.
Are you heading out, Karen? Thanks for hanging out.
Yes. Good night, Karen.
Hi, Karen.
We're gonna be heading out here shortly too. As soon as I want to get at least one good one in that everybody could see. See, what is today? The 16th. So
Hey, Denise. Just popped up. Oh, did you see it, Denise? Whatever he was showing?
All right, bear with me 1 second here. I don't know why it's doing that. That's weird. Bear with me. Now tell me if you can see this one.
I see like Wayne's World. Yeah, I see
Yeah,
it.
Dana Carvey. Okay. All right.
Who's the
All
lady?
right.
Who's the lady next to him?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I saw that.
I'm sure it's somebody that's important, but you know.
Somebody that's important. Yeah, no, I saw that.
You see the next one?
Oh gosh. Pottery there, Chris.
All right.
Terrible.
Getting the reaction now. Getting the reaction.
Oh boy. Oh no.
Yes, Casey, that's right. I can't remember her name. She accused Kavanaugh. That's right.
Oh, somebody with that. Okay.
That and the Dana Carvey one there. I'm trying to do them a little slow so they, you know, they show
I know
up
it's
anyway.
frustrating with the technology. It's just so crazy, right?
Yeah. Oh, if you haven't seen this one, this is a good one. I'll end with this one, okay? Well, I keep saying that, but I'll end with this one. Let me know if you can't see it.
The plan is simple. We break into the Capitol building, we infiltrate the government, and we kidnap the Speaker of the House.
Everyone down on the ground, FBI! You're on arrest! It's over.
Oh, it's over, all right. It's over.
For all of you, you FBI scum! We're the true patriots, standing up for liberty and stuff! Wait just 1 minute. Steve, Steve Crenshaw. You got me.
You got it.
Everyone here. We're all FBI agents if that hasn't been obvious.
All right. FBI.
I don't know how you sleep at night. Traitors.
That's cute. That's pretty much.
Well, you know, we were all FBI agents the whole time.
Anyway, there you go. Hopefully, yesterday. So I love this one too. If for those of you that don't know, every week as I'm going through things, I save all the memes that I come across, if that isn't obvious, and then I do a compilation video at the end of the week, like on Saturday, called Memes of the Week, and then I publish it on my Telegram channel, on my website, and on Truth Social. So I really do think, regardless of everything that's happening, any of the subjects or topics that we talk about, some of the stuff seems dark and, you know, excuse me, and calculated, and whatever other words you would use for, you know, criminals and people trying to control the world. Outside of all that, you have to live your life to the fullest. You have to laugh. You have to do the stuff that you love. You have to love the people that are close to you, and, you know, love people in general, because that's the exact opposite of what they want you to do. You know, they want you to be afraid. They want you to question your neighbors. They want you to question your family members. They want, you know, they try to divide. So we do this show because not only do we like the rabbit holes and the digging and stuff, and the things that we come up with, it's a good break. It's a good, you know, good takeaway, a good, geez, I'm losing, I can't use my words today. One of the words I'm thinking of, my brain's too full of stuff. That's what happens. My brain gets full and then my words go away.
Happens to all of us.
But Jennifer's right. I mean, sometimes you just get to the point where you just don't care. You don't care about so-and-so, or you don't care about this person, you know, in the public eye, this evil person, this, like, you just don't care. And this is a good segue, a good release from all of that stuff. And it helps put a backstory in place for some of it, maybe all of it, I don't know. But all I know is that when you go down a rabbit hole and you start finding things and you keep coming across new rabbit holes that take you in a different direction, that should tell you that all these rabbit holes are telling you something. They're telling you that there's a lot of stuff that's been hidden. There's just a lot of stuff that needs to come to light so people can put the big question everybody always asks since childhood is, who are we? Where do we come from? What's our history? What's, you know, what's our makeup? What makes us tick? You know, and we haven't been told the truth about that. Hey, Buckaroo. Yeah, there's a lot of buffering. Unfortunately, probably until after Wednesday, this is not going to be taken care of. So, like right now, let's just came back on. I get this little thing that flashes on the screen.
Oh yeah, when it tells you, yeah, I've seen that.
That's like my internet connection is slow or something like that. But
Dog med
yes.
time. Take care, Casey. God bless you. Love you all.
So,
Linda.
So next week.
No, I'm not on yet, Linda. Not on Truth Social. Are you on?
Jennifer ain't got no time for that.
I thought I was having trouble getting on, and now with my I would never get on with the way my technology is acting up.
Well, sometime in the next 5 days, I think they're going to have the web app done. So I'm a big fan of the web app because I'm always at my computer. So
Oh.
I like doing all my social media stuff on my computer and not
Yeah.
on my phone. So
Definitely.
Truth Social should have the web app up this sometime this week, supposedly. So we shall see.
Mm-hmm.
But I guarantee next week's show is going to be interesting because between Jennifer's new rabbit hole and some other stuff, I think we're going to focus on the 1800s. I just think there's too much there to ignore. There's
Mhm.
too much there that needs the little dots connected. And they're, and I'll tell you, I found a resource that I totally forgot about. And it's invaluable if you want to look for old newspaper articles and things like that. It's the Library of Congress. Like if you go to the Library of Congress's website, they literally have every newspaper ever printed up till 1963, from 1777 to 1963, which
Oh.
falls in that time period that we're studying. So it's a real easy tool to use. You can type in any keyword. That's how I end up finding a William Gates that was associated with Willis Emerson. And because one of the articles that was in there. And then so I started, doing other keywords. I started, when I put in Tesla, it came up with like 5,400 pages. Like, each page has like 10 articles on it or whatever. And it had like on the bottom, they have like the page numbers or whatever, like how many different pages there are. It was like over 5,400 references. So, but it's a good tool for if you want to do your own research, if you want to, and that's how I found the World's Fair stuff. It has literally everything. So while it's still available, I would use it. And I don't know that they'll try and scrub it, but maybe they will. I don't know.
Good to know. That's a good thing. That's a good resource. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it's been invaluable to me the last couple of weeks. But I want to hit that time period hard and heavy. So if any of you have any ideas for that time period, because like when Jennifer and I were talking yesterday, one of the things we were brainstorming about was a lot of these people that have done a lot of this extraordinary stuff or had all these land holdings and all these businesses and all this. This guy was a writer too. He had found time to write books, and in addition to all his other empire stuff that he had, and he lived in all these different places across the United States, and they were all the normal spots we would associate with weirdness,
Right.
and even making a stop in Utah.
That was really lots of weirdness. Lots and lots.
But a lot of these people were alive around the same time, and you have people like Jules Verne, who talked about the Hollow Earth. He wrote the book Journey to the Center of the Earth. He had 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which dealt with advanced technology and stuff like that, and whatever the one involving the moon. But there's just a lot of things, and a lot of people like Tesla and the Rothschilds, the Carnegies, the JP Morgan Chase, and all these people and all these significant events in history in our country and around the world took place in that time period. A lot of this really amazing architecture existed in that time period or earlier. And there's just too many things going on. There's just too many loose ends, too much going on to just ignore it. So we're going to focus on that. Even we're still going to have a loose format. We're not going to stick to a script, so to speak. But I think there's just too much to that time period to ignore it. And I know Jennifer's already working on it, so I may go down the Jules Verne rabbit hole and see if I can find out anything about him. And
yes, I think that'll be a fun one. Because I told you when I think of Jules Verne, I think of the steampunk movement, because I've been wanting to do the steampunk. I have so many things I want to do, but steampunk is one of them. And I think of Jules Verne.
Jules Verne is somebody that I obviously I loved to read his books when I was a kid, and because they were so fantastic, you know. And then when Hollywood made the movies like The Journey to the Center of the Earth and that kind of stuff back in the 60s or 50s or whenever they were made, I remember watching them as a kid, like just totally glued to the screen. Like my eyes were, because it had all the elements that a kid would love.
Yeah.
Had an adventure, like a Goonies adventure. If you ever saw the Goonies, had an adventure, had dinosaurs. It just had all the elements. Like they seemed so fantastic that they couldn't be real.
Yeah.
Now that we're looking at all this stuff, it's like, I don't know, maybe this was based on some stuff, you know?
Yeah, maybe we can reevaluate these things. Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
So if you haven't got a chance, seriously, go to Jennifer's channel. She posts a lot, especially when her brain explodes and she's got to do something. Like yesterday, we were talking about this particular book, this cloudy. Jeez, my brain's not working yet.
No, so good.
Smoky God, is that what it is?
Smoky God, yeah, the Smoky
God. Sorry,
Olaf. And
her brain was exploding, and like she couldn't keep it inside. She was like, "I'm just gonna read the whole book. I'm just gonna keep on the camera and get the thing going. I'm gonna read the whole book."
That's right.
That's how crazy this stuff is. That's how, it's like you got to get it out of your system. It's like,
yeah,
my brain works a similar way. It's like if I have too much stuff in my head, there's no room for anything new. So I have to get it out. I either have to write it down or speak it, do something with it.
That's right.
So my brain will allow new stuff to come in. But
yeah, it's a bandwidth thing, right?
That's right. Yeah, clearly it's even Big Brother thing. So trying to limit my bandwidth here. But anyway, I am truly blessed that you guys all hopped on and stayed on for the whole length of time. And God bless you all.
Yeah.
The shows will either be 6 or 7 o'clock on Mondays. It just depends, with doing the real estate thing. Sometimes they get pushed back an hour or something. So if it's not on at 6, it'll probably be on at 7. And there's depending on what happens Wednesday with the internet, I may not do any shows for a little bit, but if I feel comfortable that it's going to get fixed, then I'll start doing them again. But because to me, that's annoying when stuff just keeps chopping in and out, and
yeah,
it's kind of distracting. So, but is what it is.
Yeah.
So
we'll power through it, right?
That's right. Even if we got to do a radio show, we'll do it.
Yeah, there you are.
So, all right, guys, have a wonderful evening. Love you all. Tell your friends. Bring them next time.
Yay.
And don't forget to comment if you have any comments or have any ideas. So with that being said, good night, everybody. Good night, Jennifer. I'm sure I'll talk to you.
Yes. Take care.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Okay.